Wellness Lifestyles Show. We are here at the Healthy Home Market on South Boulevard, 2707 South Boulevard. And this is our Harmonious Health Hormone Equilibrium class. We do 2 classes a month right here at the Healthy Home Market. They are airing on Access 21, first and third Saturdays at 9 a.m. in the morning. You can also watch the shows on OnenessLifestyles.com. OnenessLifestyles.com. I'm so pleased to be with you here today. I'm Shifa Ali Al-Bey, and I am a Master Spiritual Life Coach and Natural Healer. And it's my pleasure to be here to bring you that natural healing information and transformation you've been seeking. Yes. So let's get started. This is part 2 or chapter 2 of our Harmonious Health Hormone Equilibrium session. And today we are talking about the pituitary gland, our pituitary gland. So for those of you who were with us in the last 2 sessions, we have already talked about the pineal gland. We're going through each one. We've already given the outline. If you missed that part, you can go to the website and watch the show. And we also have available the ebook and the MP3s, the audios, so that no one gets left behind. This is information that everyone needs to have. So I urge you to go get that blue pen and white paper and get ready to take copious notes. Get ready to take copious notes. So we're going to get started. We welcome all of you here today who are with us in the studio audience. And I'm going to grab my introduction. So this was the brochure. And today we are talking about the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is also very much associated with the hypothalamus. All right? So we're going to talk about this in terms of knowing more than we knew before. That's what this is about, for us to know more than before. The endocrine system, the hormones, how they are secreted, why they are secreted, what they do, how they affect our body, is of critical importance when we're talking about health and well-being. Because the pineal gland being the director, and then the pituitary gland being the conductor, because we're talking about this in terms of harmonious health. So anytime I talk about harmony, I'm talking about rhythm, the rhythm of life. So your pineal keeps the rhythm, and the pituitary will tell every other part or every other organ, right, in this orchestra of our body exactly what to do. So we're going to talk about that. It's about knowing more than we knew before. So in our brochure today, we have the operation of the pituitary, and we're going to get to that on the slide. But what I really want you to know is that it's important that we understand what a hormone is. What a hormone is. Now, we're talking about this from a cosmic perspective, not just from what the medical establishment says that we should take a look at, or maybe what we've learned so far. But when we talk about rhythm, there is a magnificent cycle going on in the universe, in the cosmos, and everything creates a harmony and is moving in sync one with another. So from a cosmic point of view, if everything in the universe is in rhythm or in harmony, and everything in nature is in a rhythm and in a harmony, and we demonstrate that by, if you plant a seed in the ground, there's a period of gestation where that's coming up from the ground. You know, if you plant the seed and you care for it, you will get a harvest in the right cycle of time. And everything cycles in its own way. So for us as mothers, we know that we have our cycle when we carry a child, 9 months to delivery. There's a cycle to everything. And so just like in the universe and just like in nature, there is human law and human cycle. And so the human cycle is such that it is moving from rhythm to rhythm. And the pineal and the pituitary work together to keep that rhythm. Your pituitary gland taking direction from the hypothalamus, which is in between the pineal and the pituitary, you have the hypothalamus. The pineal acts on the hypothalamus sends the signal to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland then sends the signal to each of the cells of the organs that need to release the next hormone based on what is happening in your mental and your emotional state, what you happen to be dealing with at the time. Also, it is responding to the air that we breathe. We talked about vital life force, and that there is something in the air other than oxygen that animates us, and we call that vital life force. Now, I'm going to try to keep you up with us, because if you didn't hear the lesson on the vital life force, then I might have just lost you, and I don't want you to be lost. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the vital life force and also the food that we eat is what these hormones are responding to, what they're responding to. As a result, it gives us what we feel in our body as symptoms or as perfect health. And all of that happens in a rhythm. All of that happens in a cycle of time, in a cycle of experience. And it is all in sync with universal law, cosmic law, with natural law, and with human law. And I mean the law of the human body. And many of us think that we can be healthy and violate the law of the human body. It don't work like that. So you must recognize that in getting healthy, it's more than eating organic foods, that's part of it. It's more than taking your supplements, that's part of it. It's more than maintaining a positive attitude about your life and people around you. It's more than that. It's more than making sure you take your deep breaths and get the stale air out of the bottom of your lungs, so that when you breathe, you're pulling your stomach in when you're exhaling, right? And the count begins on the exhale. Let's get it in rhythm, and it's correct rhythm. You count on the exhale, 1. Okay, and then you inhale again, and you count on the exhale, 2. But you're breathing in such a way that you're getting as much of the air into your lungs, and that you're expelling as much of the air out of your lungs, because the gases that we take in that are in the air, the environment, are heavy. And if we don't get them out of the lungs, if we're not breathing deeply enough and pushing that air out, it becomes stale and toxic to our body. So all of that in the rhythm of life, in these cycles of life, in this harmony of life, affects our health and well-being. And it all starts with your pineal and your pituitary gland. Let's talk about how that begins, and we're going to get into what is a hormone. From the cosmic perspective, the energy of our life force is coming in through the top of our head into our crown chakra, which is associated with the pineal gland. So I expressed to you when we first started this class that we were going to approach it from a cosmic point of view, and that it may challenge some of the things that you've thought about. Maybe these may be ideas that you've never even thought of before. or been introduced to. But yes, there is an energy that has been measured that absolutely comes in through the top of our head into the pineal gland. And then through that pineal gland, it also reaches to the pituitary, okay? And then we have the sixth chakra. I associated the color, the tone of music, right? We're talking about rhythm and harmony, right? So it's the orchestra. We're talking about a director and a conductor of the hormones. So as we are looking at this, I associate it with a tone, a color, right? And I'm going to give you today what the crystals are that coordinate with each of our endocrine glands and our chakras, as they are called. So there's much to know about the endocrine system, how it flows, the rhythm, and keeping our hormones in harmony. Keeping our hormones in harmony. Because to the degree that our hormones are not secreting properly, meaning we're getting recessive hormone excretion, meaning not enough, or we're getting excessive hormone secretion, meaning too much, either way is out of balance or not in equilibrium. And it affects our health and our well-being. And we never even think to look at what the hormones are doing unless somebody told you that it's your thyroid, because that's the famous thyroid. Everybody heard of the thyroid gland, That's our next session. We're going to talk about that. Right now we're talking about our pituitary, and I want you to take notes and research on your own as well. Okay, that is of major importance, okay? Because there's no one source that's going to give you the exact answer that you're looking for. It's going to come from this rhythm, right, of life, and your yearning and your desire is what's going to give it to you. So it was just like when I had eczema, and I had a desire not to have eczema, and I began to do my research, and the answer came, and the foods and the skincare that I needed to put in place gave me the ability to not have eczema anymore. Just like when I had pleurisy that time, when I couldn't breathe, when the lining of my lungs had swollen to the point where I could not breathe. I couldn't get any air in. And it was painful, like stub your toe, can't breathe hurt. All right, imagine those two together. That's what it was like. But because I had taken the time and had learned some things, when the presence told me to heal myself, I knew exactly what to do and what to call for, and 3 days later I was up from a disease that takes people out of here, kills them dead. So I'm standing here before you. We are on the subject of harmonious health, our hormone equilibrium. So we want to encourage you to take notes so that you can know more than you've known before. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back, and we're going to talk about what hormones do and what they are. We'll be right back. You're watching the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show. I'm your host, Shifa, the natural healing voice of the soul of Mother Earth.
Good morning. I am Reverend Claire Middleton from the Center for Spiritual Living, Colors. Welcome. Well, this morning I want to talk to you about the Christ consciousness. In this teaching, that is really what we look at. We look at the Christ consciousness. And so this morning I want to talk about what that means for me and invite you to look at what it might mean for yourself. When we talk about consciousness, we're talking about a sense of awareness. Sometimes we walk in an awareness of just what the world has to say and what the world thinks is true. And other times we talk about the consciousness of biblical times. The truth of the matter is that we live in this time. And so what kind of consciousness are we endeavoring to develop to be able to make it in this world. And when I think about the Christ consciousness, I always think about these things that I do, you shall do, and even greater. And I really think that that is a challenge for us to step up and to be the full God essence that we really are. One of the things that we teach is that when we talk about Jesus being the only begotten Son, we really believe that we are all begotten sons, that we all have the ability to step into the Christ consciousness. And for me, that Christ consciousness is a recognition that there is perfection on this planet, and really walking in that perfection. Can you imagine this man comes upon someone who is crippled and has the audacity to say, "Get up and walk"? And part of it is, the way I receive that is, don't you know you can walk? Why are you buying into what you've been told? Get up and walk. You're whole and you're complete, and you always have been. And that's part of the Christ consciousness for me. Really recognizing that there is a essence that moves in us, in every single cell, every single space of us. And you can call it what you want. I'm going to call it God. And that God essence is absolutely whole and complete. Always has been, always will be. And what I see in this Christ consciousness is that it had the ability to look past the appearances to the truth of who and what you are, and be able to call it forth. So in an everyday situation, part of that is really not buying into the appearances of situations. Recognizing that behind it all is perfection. That God has created an absolute perfect life for us to live. And it's a matter of our connecting to be able to hear where we need to be, what we need to be doing in order to experience that wholeness. One of the things that I shared with a colleague today is that as we step into this teaching, those of us who are ministers and practitioners in particular cannot afford to speak anything other than truth. We cannot afford to put our energy around the appearances of sickness, lack, limitation, any of that. That we have got to begin to always anticipate and speak from the truth. And this is what I see in this consciousness that we call the Christ consciousness. It always spoke from wholeness. It always spoke from the truth. Whether everybody knew it or not. But it spoke from that truth. It called that truth forth, and it demanded it. See, one of the things that I like to do is demand things in my life. I don't have a fear of that. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to demand something. How do you demand the universe? Anything. Well, if you read the Bible and you really take time to study it, you will see that you have the right to demand things. And that even the Lord's Prayer is a demand. Give us this day our daily bread. It didn't say please, it said give it to us. So when you really begin to step into who and what you are, you have the ability to call forth the things that you desire in your life. So as we leave this lesson, I want you to think about where you are in the Christ consciousness. Are you allowing yourself to look for the good, to see it, to call it forth, to expect it, and to be a part of it? Because I believe that is what we're all being called to do, to walk in the Christ consciousness, to walk in a recognition that this essence that we call God was smart enough to create perfection, and that all we have to do is call it forth and allow ourselves to walk in it. These things I do, ye shall do also, and even greater. And so it is.
Welcome back to the Oneness Wellness Lifestyles Show. I'm your host, Shifa, and we're talking about harmonious health, hormone equilibrium. Today we're talking about the pituitary gland, and right now we're going to talk about what a hormone is, what it does, what it is. So we're going to go to the slide, and the first thing we want to know about a hormone is that it is a chemical that is made by what is termed specialist cells. Specialist cells. Let me tell you, all the cells are special. All right, all the cells are special. And these hormones are made and secreted through our endocrine glands. Our cells are released into the bloodstream to go to every place that they need to go in the body. So, in other words, every part of the body is controlled or knows what to do based on a hormone that is secreted from the endocrine gland. Every part, without exception. Without exception. These are chemical messengers. Chemical messengers. They're like, you know, we have our cell phones, right? So let's do a little analogy here. So we have our cell phones, and then we have cells in our body. Okay, so that's an analogy right there. We have these cell phones, and we have cells. Well, if I want to call you, I can dial your number, and through the air, your phone will ring. Right? Cell phone to cell phone. Endocrine gland secretes a hormone that dials the number of you specifically. Right? It's not going to ring any other number. It's going to ring that one number that I dialed. The endocrine gland is going to secrete that hormone that's going to go exactly to the cells that need to respond to whatever is the needs to happen, and encoded in that is the exact message. Is the exact message. So there's nothing that's new under the sun. The body's already doing all this stuff we have all this technology for. So just wanted to give you some kind of a practical, I guess, analogy of how this works. A hormone provides an internal communication system between the cells located in distant parts of the body. Doesn't matter where I'm dialing that number from on the planet, unless I just don't have service, and that means I don't have service that happens in your body too, right? There's an interruption in the flow of communication, right? But when the connection is correct, doesn't matter where I am, I can call distant parts of the world with my cell phone, just like your cells can between each other. In the human body, hormones are used for two types of communication. First is the communication where the glands are released to stimulate another targeted gland, okay, and cause it to release hormones, all right, based on what needs to happen. All right, next slide. Second, between an endocrine gland and a target organ. So it can communicate between the gland and another gland and make it secrete the hormone that needs to be secreted, or it can communicate directly with the organ. It doesn't need a go-between, okay, in some cases. And since hormones are released directly into the bloodstream, they are carried around the entire body. So I said a few moments ago that all of the cells are important, significant, and special because all of the cells are impacted because the hormones go through the whole body, through the bloodstream. So it's affecting every part of our being. So this complex interplay happens in harmony. It's a harmonious musical concert that's going on systematically within the body. And it is going through what is called the endocrine system. And we are talking about it from the top of our head to the root or the base. Okay, and we're going to name them by name, give you the colors, the tones. We did that in our first lesson, today you're going to get which are the crystals that match. Because there's all kinds of ways to get your hormones back in balance. Now, your hormones affect everything. And it would seem to be that way, right? Because it stands to reason if the hormones are being secreted and getting into your through your bloodstream and impacting your whole body, then it must affect everything. And so that means everything from growth and metabolism to your appetite, puberty, and fertility. And the list goes on. That's just to name a few. So our hormones affect every part of us, and that's why this informational class is so important for us to know more than we knew before. All right? The pituitary gland is the conductor. We said the pineal is what? Right. The director. The pineal is the director, and the pituitary is the conductor. So when you have an orchestra, right, and you've all seen that, it's the person who is conducting and telling every part of the orchestra what to play. When the horns come in, when the drums come in, when the violins come in and fade out, when the oboe plays, and all of that. In harmony, because if it's not harmony, it's just what? Noise. It's noise and it's discord. And there's no system to it. And so our endocrine gland, our endocrine system is the same way. And the pituitary is the conductor. It's telling every other organ what to do, every other gland what to secrete. All right? So it's of huge importance to our whole body, to our whole health and well-being. Where is it? Here's a computer-generated image of the left hemisphere of the brain showing exactly where the pituitary gland is attached to the bottom of the hypothalamus. Okay? It's at the base of the brain, So it's in the brow. It's called your third eye. Okay, your pituitary gland is what is known as your third eye, your pituitary gland. All right, so it's important to know where it is. Equilibrium. This is, you want to see how it works in concert with the brain and everything else. So you see here picture, you can see where the pineal gland is, right, that red part, and then you can see where the pituitary gland is, and right above the pituitary gland is the hypothalamus. All right, that's where it's getting its information. But the hypothalamus is getting its direction from the pineal gland. All right, so all this is happening at the center of our brain, in between the left and right hemisphere. All right, so you can see how it's related to the brain stem and the spinal cord, and the cerebellum. And so most of the times we think that the only signals that's being given to our body is from the brain to the cerebral cortex or our spine, right? And we know that every organ in our body is connected to our spine through the central nervous system. Well, there's another system that they don't talk about much, and it's the autonomic system. And it's that system that is working, that's telling the central nervous system what to do. So it's not just the central nervous system. Okay? So the director and the conductor are in charge of this cerebral spinal cord, I should say, and the brain stem. Is sending that information to every part through the nerves and through the blood. Okay? And it's happening automatically. You can't lift your hand without that happening. And it's so fast. What does the pituitary gland do? What does it do? The pituitary gland is called the master gland, as the hormones it produces control so many different processes in the body. It senses the body's need and sends signals to different organs and glands throughout the body to regulate their function and maintain an appropriate environment. It secretes a variety of hormones into the bloodstream, which act as messengers to transmit information from the pituitary gland to distant cells, regulating their activity. So that's everything that we just talked about in a nutshell. So for example, the pituitary gland produces prolactin, that's a hormone, which acts on the breast to induce milk production. The pituitary gland also secretes hormones that act on the adrenal glands, the thyroid, the ovaries, and the testes, which in turn produce their hormones. Through production of its hormones, the pituitary gland controls metabolism, growth, sexual maturation, reproduction, blood pressure, and many other vital physical functions and processes. So everything that's going on in your body is controlled by your pituitary gland. All right? So I'm taking this time to really give an in-depth explanation of the pituitary gland because it is so critical to our health and well-being. And when we talk about harmony and equilibrium, we must talk about the pituitary and its importance as the master gland controlling every other part of our body, from our growth to fertility, reproduction, all of that. So we're going to take a break because I know that was a segment chock full of information. So I want you to think about that while we are getting ready for our next segment. You're watching the Oneness Wellness Lifestyles Show. I'm your host, Shifa, and we'll be right back after this.
If you want to get a lot of people very angry at you, and you're in the health profession, it's fairly simple. Begin to cure incurable diseases.
It would ruin the economy. Billions of dollars.
Cancer is one of the richest multi-billion-dollar industries in the world, and every cancer patient is a commodity.
The huge pharmaceutical companies have everybody in their pocket, from the president on down to the senator's representative. Everybody gets paid.
Something's terribly wrong when you treat cancer and your hair falls out and you vomit. This is truly medieval.
People in the United States and developed countries who are treated for cancer don't even die of cancer. They die of the treatment of cancer.
Many years from now, people look back at this time and wonder what kind of Neanderthals we were.
A prophet many years ago, he said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge."
Welcome back. We're talking about the pituitary gland, and you're watching the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show. And it's important that we really get a grasp of the pituitary gland because, as we've said, it controls everything that's going on in the body. And it's important that we know this so we can stop looking all these other places and really concentrate on what it is. Get focused, right? It's right here. Get focused. And part of the reason why the body's going haywire, right, and it's out of equilibrium and there's no harmony or rhythm and it's discord and disorder is because the pituitary gland has been calcified by the starch, the dairy, the sugar, and when we're not taking care of it, it actually begins to shrink and causes the hormones to be in discord, right? So you're not getting enough of what we need. And the signal, right? We talked about these hormones are chemical messengers going to every cell in the body, telling every organ what to do. Well, if the command center, if the conductor, you know, if the person who is guiding the orchestra is out of commission, then the rest of the body doesn't know what to do. And anything, you hear me, anything's liable to happen to you. Anything. And so you go to your doctor, the doctor don't know what's wrong with you, right? And they probing and looking, and they find the organ that's out of whack, right? That's diseased, that's out of harmony, and they want to deal with the organ, when really it's because the hormone's not telling the organ what to do. It's not getting the right signal. And that's why this is so critically important to our health and well-being. So on our slide, we have the pituitary gland and its function. And it's really a diagram of the things that I just talked about in our last segment about all of the parts of the body that the pituitary gland is in control of. And it's just showing you the kidneys and the heart and the uterus and the breast and the pancreas and the thyroid gland and the testes and the ovaries and the breast, the bone even, okay? But you have, and you can see how important this is. The pituitary gland and the relationship of the hypothalamus to the pituitary and the hormones secreted by the anterior, middle, and posterior lobes of the pituitary gland. Way important, okay? Of all the things that you may know about your body, how to make your muscles big and strong and all that stuff, this little tiny pituitary gland in the center of your head is where it's all at. That's where it's happening. This is command central. And if that's not being fed and nourished, okay, and protected, all right, the rest of your body doesn't stand a chance for very long. All right, pituitary gland. This is how it functions. So we have to talk about the hypothalamus, because the hypothalamus is in between the pineal gland and the pituitary. And it's really a ganglia, right, or a plexus of nerves. So we talked about your solar plexus last time, and how the solar plexus really isn't an organ, but it's a place where all of the hormones converge in one place at your solar plexus, which is kind of right under your thalamus and above your navel, right in here. And that's why when something happens to you, or whether it's excitement or trauma, you kind of feel it in your stomach, you know? You feel like maybe the wind's been taken out of you, or those butterflies that you feel when you're nervous, or that pain in the pit of your belly, as they call it sometimes, when your thoughts and your emotions are not in alignment. When something has occurred, you feel it right there, because all your hormones go, ah! Right there, right? And that's where we feel it. So it's important to recognize that your hypothalamus is one of those places where all that kind of activity is happening also. And so you have your pineal gland in the top of your head, right? It's in the center, coming down. And then underneath the base of the brain, because your pineal's in the very center of the brain, and then right hanging underneath that is the pituitary, but in between is another plexus, which is called the hypothalamus. And this hypothalamus is where the pineal gland is sending the signal, and now the hypothalamus tells the pituitary. So think of it like this. You have this concert going on, right? Because we're talking about everything happening in harmony and rhythm in the body. And so you have this magnificent rhythm and cycle and harmony going on in this concert that we call the human body activity. The composer, we haven't even talked about the composer yet, but the composer is the cosmos, right? So we did mention it last time. The composer is the creator of the body, right? The grand designer of how it's all supposed to go in the first place. So the composer actually wrote the score. And now the score has been deposited into the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is the director. And now the director has the sheet music, right, from the composer. Well, the sheet music now is given to the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus tells the pituitary, and the pituitary carries it out. All right? So just to make it easy, and also to cause your subconscious to recognize that this really is supposed to be a harmonious action in the body. And the hypothalamus is important because it's the go-between, right? It's the sheet music, it's the roadmap, it's the compass, if you will. It tells the pituitary what to do and what organs are the ones who are supposed to be doing it, at what time it's supposed to do it, when, what note is supposed to be playing, and all of you musical people, you know all the rest of how that goes, right? So it is the hypothalamus. One of the major functions of the hypothalamus is to maintain homeostasis, right? Homeostasis means that it's keeping the body in that state of constant well-being or constant condition, okay? So and it says here to keep the human body stable, all right? Homeostasis, right? The hypothalamus responds to a variety of signals from the internal and external environment, including body temperature, hunger, feelings of being full up after eating, blood pressure, and levels of hormone in the circulation. So the reason why the hypothalamus is responding to all that, because the pineal gland knows and is sending that signal to the hypothalamus and taking care of all of that. It also responds to stress and controls our body's, here's the word, right? Our daily body rhythms, such as nighttime secretions of melatonin, right? That help our body to rest from the pineal gland, and the changes in cortisol, which is the stress hormone. The body temperature over a 24-hour period, and the hypothalamus collects and combines this information and puts changes in place to correct any imbalances. So go back to homeostasis, to keep the body stable, all right? That's the role of the hypothalamus, all right? But it doesn't do it. It sends that signal to the pituitary, and the pituitary does it. So you can see where this is, where I talked about it as a plexus. In between the pineal and the pituitary, we have the hypothalamus. And it's generally always spoken of in relationship to the pituitary because that's where the instructions are coming from. All right? Okay. Now, we talked about the pituitary, what it does, how it does, what it does, and its connection to the hypothalamus. In this series, it's important that we understand that it's not just these physical glands that we're talking about, but there are cosmic energies that are associated with these glands, and there is this spiritual essence, if you will, that are known as the chakras, which are associated and connected to these physical glands, because everything that happens in the physical has a spiritual or non-manifest reality. So everything that is in physical reality has a non-manifest spiritual reality. And the chakras are that unmanifest reality that helps to keep us in equilibrium. So it's important that I gave you the notes, right? What the musical notes are, what the colors are for each of the endocrine glands. And now we want to talk about the crystal connection for each endocrine gland. Now, crystals you may or may not have any experience with at all, but they are mineral rocks, if you will, that grow in the earth of different color and manifestation of size and energy and even consciousness. Yes, even a rock has consciousness to some degree. It may not be aware of itself like we are aware of ourselves, but yes, these crystals have and hold consciousness and also have a very important role in the life of the human. So we talked about cosmic law, natural law, and the law of the human body. And so now we're talking about the relationship between the law of the human body and the law of nature. The rocks are part of nature and have a definite relationship to us as human beings. So when we come back, we're going to connect all of that and take this to another level or dimension, if you will. We're going to up-level the conversation to the realm of the cosmic. You're watching the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show, and I'm your host, Shifa. We'll be right back. Best of life, health, and happiness. I'm Shifa Ali Albay, host of the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show, inviting you to come be my guest on the show. I want to know all about you so we can get all about you to all of the community. That's what it's about. We cover the topics of healthy mind, body, family, finances, and society. I know you fit into one of those categories or you know someone who does. Contact us at 1-800-609-8157. The number to contact us to be on the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show is 1-800-609-8157. Welcome back to the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show. I'm your host, Shifa, and we're talking about our endocrine glands. This is the Harmonious Health, Hormone Equilibrium session. We are talking about the pituitary gland this time, but right now we're going to talk about the crystal connection. As I said before the break, we're going to up-level this conversation into the realm of the spirit, into the realm of the cosmic conversation. There is cosmic law, there is natural law, and then there is the law of the human. And collectively, that is known as a mystical perspective when you bring all of that together. So just in case you thought that mystical meant occult or spooky or whatever you thought it meant, I want to give you the correct definition so that you understand that much of the conversation in the planet, in the world today, on the planet today is a mystical conversation. Cosmic, natural, and human laws. That if we violate any of them, we find ourselves out of harmony with the perfection of the plan for the human body and our environment and world at large. So we want to get that equilibrium, that balance, and that rhythm for a happier, healthier, sexier you. I didn't forget that part. Yeah. All right, so let's go to the chart now. So I'm going to talk to you about each of the endocrine glands and the crystal that is the coordination between helping it to remain or be restored to equilibrium. All right, so to the chart. So for our crown chakra, that's the chakra in the top of our head, it is the clear quartz crystal. The clear quartz crystal. And it doesn't matter whether it's in the shape of a pyramid or it's double terminated or it's been tumbled. That's tumbled means that it's round, that no edges, or it's raw, right out of the earth. The crown chakra is associated with the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is associated with the clear quartz crystal. That is your 7th chakra. The 6th chakra Your pituitary, which is the focus of our program on today, is associated with the stone amethyst. Amethyst, which is the violet color, right? Purple. Purple. We talk about it being royal. And when you have any understanding of the amethyst and you associate it with the pituitary gland, you begin to right away make the correspondence and go, oh, that's why it's purple. That's why the pituitary gland is in control of everything. That's why it's seated where it is. So the amethyst. And it's important recognizing the times that we live in today, that the pituitary gland being associated with the amethyst and us living in the time of the violet ray, right? This outpouring of cosmic energy that is the violet ray, this time of Aquarius, right? All of that is associated with the violet ray and the amethyst stone. The amethyst stone. Next we have the thyroid. And the thyroid is our next session coming up. But it is associated with the stone that I love to associate with the thyroid is lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli is a blue stone. And there is also another stone that is recommended, which is called blue solidite. Okay. I prefer the lapis lazuli because it is a higher vibration and it's really about the color, right? It's the blue ray. And the lapis lazuli also has threads or strands of pure gold in it, which heightens its ability to balance and to heal the thyroid. And because the thyroid is of such critical importance nowadays, you know, if people don't know any other endocrine gland, they know the thyroid, right? They know the thyroid. So it's important that we use the highest vibratory frequency that we can when we are bringing it back into harmony, and lapis lazuli is wonderful for our thyroid gland. Okay? So it's a blue stone. It's a blue stone. And next we have what is known as the thymus, and it's associated with the heart. The thymus associated with the heart. There are two colors and two stones that can be associated. One we all know is that the heart is associated with rose quartz. Rose quartz. And that's a very beautiful pink stone. And also green, the color green is associated with the heart or the thymus gland. Okay? And that's for the vitality. The green stones are also associated with the heart chakra. So the next area that we want to talk about, because now we've talked about the pineal, the pituitary, the thyroid, and the thymus, and the heart. Next we want to go to the solar plexus, and that's yellow. That's yellow. And it's also associated with the navel, okay? But it's yellow, and the stone is citrine. Citrine is associated with the solar plexus. And you remember the solar plexus is not actually a gland itself, it is a plexus or a ganglia of a meeting place, a command point in the center of our being that, or where I should say, all of the hormones kind of come together. Okay? Your solar plexus is the command station for the lower part of your body. Okay? It's your core, it's your strength, your power, your solar plexus. Okay? It's yellow, and the stone again is citrine. The next chakra is our sacral chakra. All right? And this is in the area of the abdomen. So we're talking about now your liver, all of your reproductive organs, your spleen, your adrenals, all of that, okay? A little bit right below your navel. And the stone is carnelian, and the color is orange. The stone is carnelian. All right. And then finally we have our base or root chakra. And there are really two colors that manifest in the root chakra. The first one that most people are aware of is red. So ruby is one of the stones associated with the base chakra, or the sacral root chakra rather, base or root chakra. And also the color black, which is stability to the earth. And the stone that represents that stability is smoky quartz. So you'll see a quartz stone that has a black hue, kind of smoky hue. That is called smoky quartz, and that's associated with the stability of your being, grounded as part of nature. Okay, that's our root chakra or our base chakra. So a ruby, a smoky quartz, and the color red. So there you have it. You have your stones. So what we wanted to do was make sure that you have a complete picture of how it is to deal with your endocrine system, how to get your hormones back in harmony using all three of these areas that are necessary, very necessary for us to bring into focus, bring into play, if you will, to get the harmony back, all right? So I hope you took copious notes and you wrote that down, because you're going to want to go and get those crystals for yourself. And at some point during this process, we're going to talk about how it is you purchase, cleanse, clear, and program your crystals to bring your equilibrium of your hormone secretions back into order. All right? Very good. So that's our session for today on harmonious health, hormone equilibrium. It's my hope and prayer and desire and my knowing that you receive something of value today, that you know more than you knew before in this conversation of hormone health and hormone equilibrium, and that you will take those notes and the information that you received here and put it in use in your life so that you can have a balanced, harmonious, rhythmic life for a happier, healthier, and sexier you. I'm your host, Shifa Ali Albay, and you've been watching the Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show, and we'll see you next time. Until then, peace, love, and light. Be well.